Welcome to West Virginia and Commonplace. There comes times when you got contemporaries in the work that you do. And when I'm talking about the work, I'm talking about Q&A, interviewing, podcasting. There's two people that come to mind. One is James Lampkin. He's doing whatever he's doing in Maryland, PG County representative, Suitland High School on that one too. And then there's another guy, and this guy, they call us the Mount Rushmore of podcasters that interview, along with for some reason King Germ from Procast gets joined on there too. But I have with me Jermey from Life Unplugged. And today we have an unfiltered episode. An unfiltered episode necessarily with me is the most candid conversation you're going to get with me. It doesn't have a format to it. It doesn't have layers to it. But before I go any deeper, Jermey, take the floor real quick. Let everybody know about you, about your podcast, where they can find you, meet and greet you across the internet.
Yeah, what's up? Yep, that's right. This is me, Jermey, Life Unplugged podcast, your premier interview podcast where we tell the story behind the success. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Life Unplugged _podcast and on Twitter at Life Unplugged _1, where we push the limits a little bit on Twitter. We say some stuff over there that we can't say on Instagram too much, but make sure you follow me. But yeah, I have a interview podcast. It didn't quite start out as an interview podcast. It kind of started off as, well, I guess at the bare bones of it, it was always an interview podcast, but it started off as a family interview podcast and just kind of morphed into what it is today, where now I interview independent music artists, professionals in mental health and, other podcasters, a wide range of people that I've had the opportunity to talk to on various topics. So yeah, that's basically what it's about.
And the great thing about your podcast is you have a who's who of podcasters and guests on there. Like you have everybody that's an anybody that's out there, and everybody's an anybody. But I'm just saying, in our podcasting realm, which I have titled the middle tier podcasting, there's you, there's James Lampkin, there's me. We all interview, but we all interview different. I consider myself Tavis Smiley. I consider you more of a Ted Koppel type of interviewer because you get in depth. You bring a different spirit to it. And visually, you do better than most when it comes to your advertising and how you do your stuff. That's one thing that I like about you. And then another thing with your podcast, if you head over to listennotes.com and you want to check out the Life Unplugged interview experience, if you go over there and not only talk about this platform for this one reason, like it gives you stats, it gives your show a listening score, it gives it a global ranking on where it sits. So your listening score is 26, which is amazing. Your global rank inside our genre of podcasting is in the upper 10 percentile, which is amazing for a podcast. Everybody knows I'm a statistic man, and I'm this guy that I'm behind the scenes. You come to me when you need information or if you want to, you want to talk about things. And me, you have a good relationship going on because you are the king of technology. I'm going to give you this here. I'm a guy, everybody knows I'm the Yeti mic guy. You can see it right there.
Yep.
And we talked about different things from the different ways you record, because you are one of the only podcasters that records in two different formats. You use a Zoom recorder, and you are the king of roadcaster. Sorry, Too Much Game Podcast. You're good with it, but you're the king of it, Jermey. So please lead in with this. What made you decide to use these different types of technologies? Because you've owned everything from the Yeti mics to across the board.
Well, I wanted to be able to be flexible because I do a lot of my recording while I'm traveling. And really, it was out of necessity because I broke my Rodecaster. So, stupid mistake. I left the USB plug plugged in and went to put it in my bag, and it got caught on the bag and it snapped the connection. So, it would have needed to have been micro soldered in order to fix it. And fortunately, talking to you, you were like, I'm pretty sure you were like, maybe you have a warranty. See what they can do with it. Call Rode.
Yeah.
So you told me to call. It was you. You told me to call Rode, see what they could do with it. I called Rode, and they were like, lo and behold, I had a 2-year warranty. The only downside was I had to ship it to them, and it was going to take 8 weeks, and I had interviews lined up. So you and somebody else, Adrian from Midlife Craven, actually put me onto the Zoom P4, And they were like, I just went and bought it. I just bought it, shipped it. I didn't use it. I just had it sitting in a box. And I actually canceled a couple of interviews. And remember, you and I were working on a couple of different things with the iPad. And I was like, man, this isn't going to work for what I want to do. So finally, I busted out the box and I was working with John Hurst from the Hurst Brothers podcast. And they also used the P4. And he was giving me some pointers and some tips on using it. So I said, let me break this out and see what it's about. So I broke it out. I started using it. And it worked really good, honestly. I mean, the P4 in comparison to the Rodecaster, to me, exactly the same. Quality was exactly the same. The only difference is you lose some features. The Rodecaster obviously has a lot more features, but the Zoom P4 has the features that you need to accomplish what you want. As a matter of fact, I think I got even a little bit better sound quality out of the P4. Now with the Rodecaster, you can tweak some stuff to make it sound better, and I actually figured out something that I had been doing wrong. But the sound quality was A1. So in the interim, Rode contacted me, told me that they couldn't fix it in Indiana. They had to ship it to California. Ooh. They shipped it to California, and it took 4 or 5 more weeks. They couldn't fix it in California. They just gave me a new one. So they shipped me up. So I got a brand new Rodecaster. I haven't even taken it out the box yet because I've been using the P4. It's still convenient to travel with. I still got a brand new Rodecaster in the box at home, but I got the P4 that I can put the P4 in my back pocket. It's battery operated. It works with all the mics and stuff that you need, hooks right up to your laptop. I mean, it's perfect. So really it was out of necessity, but I'm glad that I have 2 different ways that I can do it in. And also a backup way. If I wanted to do a solo episode, you could use Ferrite, you can use GarageBand, and this is all stuff that you hit me up with. A Ferrite I had heard about before, but it is $30 to do Ferrite. It is $30, but it works. So if you needed to do a solo episode, you could absolutely do a solo episode. So collaboration and communication is key. You know, not being afraid to reach out to people. You know, we text each other on our personal number, call each other. Hey, I got a question, whatever. And we cannot be afraid to do that or be too proud to do that, or, you know, be like hoarding information. If we have the information, let's share it. I try to share the information you give me, I try to give it to other people too.
Yeah, because like no doubt, like everybody knows my persuasion is the portable option on what you can do. And with which the setup that you got, I know you can put a tutorial on at one point or at some point in the near future. Like I like what you got going, because even with the P4 and everything like that, we'll have to talk about it behind the scenes later. I'll have to send you this video. Homeboy got it working on the iPad.
Yeah.
It's a little maneuver.
If you have you got to have all the dongle hookups for it, but yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. So my thing is like my emphasis is on portable studios, because you never know what's going to happen. And like, you know, in the same hemisphere, even though I'm the king of Yeti mics, I carry a dongle and we hook 4 mics up and we got a studio. We got a real live studio in any hotel I'm at, because that's how we live our lives on the road. So I can get a conference room and have people in it and we do shows. So that's one thing that I really appreciate about you there. Now we're gonna get deeper into some stuff real quick, because like I said, it's unfiltered, so we're gonna go all over the place. You were
let me turn this air off so we won't get no background. Yeah.
All right, we're back from a little quick break that we had to take. And y'all know, like always, there'll be some kind of ad or something random shit that'll go in there for that, because that keeps the lights on and keeps West Virginia in commonplace as the number 5 podcast in West Virginia. Don't care about what we are, regional or national, just in the state of West Virginia, number 5. So we'll keep moving with that. Now let's get into some serious business. You are what I call a podcaster's podcaster. And when I say that, I say it clearly like this. People admire the work you do. And initially, when me and you first started talking, you and James Lampkin had the same kind of response. Y'all didn't realize how much admiration you get in the building. Neither one of y'all, I guess it's just because of the way people come to me and how things happen. Everybody respects your podcast on a level, like with you, they tie you and Podcastagram together, Patrick, both y'all two together because of the content that y'all have provided in the past. And that has been one of the things like that I wanted to talk to you about. What is it like having that kind of pressure on you? I mean, I know you're going to give me an obvious answer like, "Oh, I don't see the pressure." But what is it like having that pressure on you because you have a name, you have the same kind of respect that I have in this business, and when you do something, people are going to pay attention and they're going to follow suit to what you do, or they're going to like what the speed challenges that you do and different things like that. People are going to imitate. People are going to jump onto those things. So, how do you deal with that kind of pressure?
Well, the first thing is that I study the craft, which I don't know how many people do that, but like I study other great interviewers. I know what my vision is for my podcast. My vision is that initially I wanted to be known as almost like a Larry King type interviewer. Larry King always interviewed. He'd be sitting down with Jay-Z one week, and then Martha Stewart the next week, and then Colin Powell the next week, and then somebody, some British prime minister or something the next week, and that's really the vision that I have for my podcast. So I have a clear vision of what I want my podcast to be. I don't want it to be like everybody else. I don't want to talk to the same people all the time. I want it to be different. And so I have an interview that I did with a woman who is an adult advocate, an advocate for adult autism.
Okay.
Nobody's talking about that.
No.
Nobody's talking about that. I did an interview with Ariel Johnson. She was a traumatic brain injury survivor.
Yes.
I mean, I know you did an interview with her,
but it was after you,
but
after I heard yours.
It was after, right? Nobody was doing it. I wanted to be different. I wanted my guests to look different. I wanted them to have something different to say. So I just look for different. Collaboration is key. So sometimes you do have to connect with other podcasters. So I am selective with the podcasters that I do pick. I try to pick ones that I vibe with. Because when you don't have a vibe, then it just doesn't work out. But I just have a clear vision of what I want my podcast to sound like and what I want it to be. So the pressure in algorithm or the Twitter algorithm puts on all of us. Oh, I got to do a reel. Oh, I got to do a story. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to put. So I took that pressure off of me. I stopped where I just eliminated that pressure because I don't have time. I don't have the time to spend on social media the way that, when early in the pandemic, when we had a little bit more time and I had time to post different stuff. If you notice, I really don't post as much as I used to.
True.
I really, and if you look at my feed, it's really streamlined to just focusing on the podcast. When I post a podcast episode, every now and then I do a clip, and I don't even leave it on the main grid for more than a couple of days. I take it off the main grid and put it on the back page. So I really just I know what the vision I have for my podcast, and I really just eliminated the social media pressure to constantly have to post because everybody has a different opinion about you got to post this, you got to post that. Well, you know what? There's some people that have really good content that don't post at all.
True.
They don't post at all. They don't focus on that. They focus on doing the content. So what I decided to do is to study the craft. So I listen to other interviewers. I read books on interviewing skills or articles on how to interview people. I look at other people that I think are good interviewers, that are top notch, Larry King, Oprah Winfrey, and some of the newer ones, Shannon Sharp. I listen to some of his interviews. Some of them I think I'm better than, honestly, but they have the celebrity to go with them. But I really just try to do that, and I think that for me, speaking has always been something that I've been good at. Some little fun facts about me that I was going back to high school and college years. I was a part of Future Business Leaders of America, where basically 4 years in a row, I won first place in impromptu speaking and public speaking. And so it's something that's always been a part of kind of what I do. So I said, well, this is a good opportunity. People always said I had a voice for radio. That's one thing that people always say, that, man, you have the perfect podcast voice. You have like a radio type voice. So that's something that I try to use. So I just eliminate the pressure. I find out where the pressure is coming from. For me, it was coming from feeling the need to post constantly on social media. And I just eliminated that. I post when I have the episode coming out, and I just use the stories. If I see something I want to post in the stories, I post in the stories.
All right, and I give it to you. That's amazing that you do that. Because so many people feel pressure, and everybody knows that I got podcast talks and different things going on. And automation is key with me. Like I said, from November till now, I've been doing less and less interviews. I've probably done 5 interviews, and it's because, like you said, the social media pressure. Like that's one thing that I was like, man, I'm never gonna let that happen to me because I'm one of them computer dudes. I'm like, we got to automate this. At first, it was Hootsuite, and I was spending a little money, and then Facebook Business Suite to keep the Instagram up. Mine is kind of like it's like crack. I just throw it all out there. You get repeat stuff, but that repeat stuff, it's not like I'm actually getting online. And I turned off notifications. That was the one key thing that I had to do. No notification comes on.
Me too.
If me and you're going to be cordial, you're going to have my phone number. You can text me. You can call me anytime. It don't matter. That's how I'm going to be with certain podcasters. And then the other thing that I had to do too, and it happened to me, and this is one thing that I gravitated to. I have some controversial thoughts on certain things, and actually on your show, I gave one of those out there.
And that episode's coming out next. I want to put it out next week, but I gotta wait 2 weeks. I gotta wait a little bit. I gotta let this one that I just did was so problematic.
Yes,
I gotta let this one marinate because that one got some controversial stuff in it too.
Yeah, and my thing is, like, I realized, like, in podcasting is like professional wrestling. You got baby faces like us, and then you got heels. And there's certain people that are heels that don't need to mesh with certain baby faces. And me and the heel became aligned, and then we had a little falling out. And then he turned into a baby face, and now he's back to being a heel. So he's doing what he does. So I learned that there's a good guy and bad guy in podcasting. We don't need to differentiate. Let that person be whoever they are and move on from that. But one thing that I don't like in podcasting is this whole deal of people buying views, buying downloads and stuff like that, because it has oversaturated our market so bad now. And not to say any names on anybody, but I can look at stuff, and this is, they call this the JR King Jerm rule. If you got 4,000 people watching your thing, I need to see 10% down in your comments. At the least, and when all this hoo-ha about downloads and streams and everything got caught up, I just took a second and stepped back from myself, and I'm like, because Dylan in Consultant, I had a person that has 100,000 downloads and this and that, right? But I have access to Chartable and things, and I can see exactly what your direct downloads are. So no one can lie to me about what you get. I can see it. You can see it if you pay for it. Anybody can.
Right. And
Spotify bought up Chartable, so now all of our download results are going to be faulty anyway. That's something that just happened a week ago. So my whole thing is, and my whole business structure has changed. And I tell people this: worry about the content that you're creating. The content will sell itself, and then people are going to gravitate to it. Don't be out here trying to be a success and monetize at the same time. Become a success and then monetize. And me and you both know Dolomite. Dolomite speaks a lot of truth from Too Much Game podcast. And one thing that a lot of podcasters do, and I want your opinion on this, and I was faulty of this at one time when I very first started. A lot of people try to withdraw what they haven't deposited. Have you ran into any issues where, sometimes we hear stories about, we hear stuff about downloads that it just sometimes like, man, this shit is just too far fetched. I just gotta put my hands over my ears and not even listen. Have you had any instances like that?
Not personally on my podcast. I mean, listening to other people. Sometimes I think that some of the stories that people tell sometimes on their live or whatever, sometimes it seems like a little far-fetched, but I don't know. It's not for me to judge that.
Right.
People want to sell. They want to sell their podcast. They want to sell their brand. More power to them. it's people out here scamming people for money. And I mean, advertisers, big advertisers, big ones, Target, Walmart, they
Oh,
don't
don't say
doing the same
Walmart.
thing.
Oh, not Walmart.
Well,
Not Walmart.
Nike, Adidas, they all doing the same thing. They all selling us a dream. That's all. They're all selling. They're trying to get you to click. It's all clickbait. It's all advertisement. So, if people are taking a page out of their book, then more power to them. I know that there's a lot of artists. I know that from some stuff that I read that someone like Travis Scott was buying streams.
Yeah, French
He drops an
Montana.
album, French Montana buying streams. Hey, if it made them a couple dollars, I mean, it's not the most authentic way to do it, but if that's how they do it, if that's how they get down, that's how they get down. Me personally, I like to see my stuff go up authentically. So when I say that I made a post that I had 1,000 followers on Twitter, that's authentic followers. That's me communicating with the people, following people back. People follow me, I follow them, communicating, laughing, joking, and building up that following. That's I like to do that. I would rather have 2,000 authentic followers than 20,000 people that I don't interact with at all. But that's just me. And also, it depends on what you're in it for. So if you're in this podcast thing to monetize and to make money, then you need to use every angle that you can. And if that means buying followers, if that means selling, stretching the truth a little bit or whatever you got to do it. And if people are going to buy your merch and if they're going to buy your podcast or buy your Patreon, then that's a come up for you. Me personally, I'm not going to do it because I'm not in it for money, right? It's not the ROI is not that it's not, it doesn't, I'm not in it for that. Okay. So it's not a big deal to me. I don't need to have my page say I have 10,000 followers. It's pointless to me because I'm just not in it for that. But if you in it for that, then you need to use every angle that you possibly can use. TikTok, Instagram, you need to buy followers. You got to buy ads. People buy ads. So let me ask you this. What's the difference if you buy followers or if you buy ads?
So true.
Same thing.
So true. So true.
It's no different. So use every angle. If you're trying to make money on this, use every angle that you can use. So I don't knock nobody that does that. It's not for me because that's not what I'm looking to do personally.
Okay, and I can agree with that because, like, I say this with my story alone, and this is closeted because I don't give nobody ever gives everything out, but this is real simple. When I first started out, I made a mistake, and I went the free route with everything. I didn't invest into anything I did except for my actual limited run merchandise. The microphones, I had this shitty $5 microphones I got out I was getting my microphones out of those bins or those pallets.
Wow.
I was getting them off the Amazon thing just because.
Man.
Because sometimes you can get a deal in a passive roadcaster. I really wish I'd have got it because I could have got it for $80. It was in the thing, and
because they're not cheap.
So I said next time I see an Amazon return on something like that, it's mine. But inside everything, like the mistake I made was I should have invested in my podcast earlier. It took me. I had to literally, and this is the one secret that people don't want to let slide. I have a business sense for this because of what I do in real life. So the one reason why I was able to get to where I got to and have gotten stayed where I'm at is because I realized that people have tax write-offs. I found a silent partner, and this is right here today. If anybody has any questions, I will answer this. You can DM me. I went and found a silent partner to be inside my podcast. Somebody that needed a tax write-off for their podcast. For their taxes. A nice company out of West Virginia. And I did that because, like, hey, if my podcast didn't get to where I wanted to and didn't build up my sometimes cinema business, then I was gonna have to figure out if I was gonna keep hardcore podcasting doing more consultant work. So once I figured that out, there's so many people that are silent partners. It could be to do with the snowplow that shovels the snow off the streets of the 215 where you're at, and people want to invest money that way because it's a fail safe for them, and it's paying me, but it's taking care of their taxes. So
Yeah.
I tell people inside monetizing, getting these ads, doing all this extra stuff, all that stuff will come in good time. But
Yeah.
but the problem that we have today is that people are missing an element in the business, and this is something that I picked up now, and it's called BTS, behind the scenes. So like where me and you would do this show right now, right? If I had to organize it a little better, because we're doing this on the fly, I would have
Yeah.
had you. I would have scheduled us to do this like at 9 o'clock, and then I would have asked you from 10 to 10:20 to go on live, and me and you shoot the breeze with some random ass questions to
Right.
build up some behind the scenes there. And I would have took it a
Mhm.
step further. I would have took it a step further before I even recorded with you. I would have had the iPad set up, the setup right here, and I would have filmed with my extra camera. Because you got the extra camera too.
Yep.
I would have filmed everything around me real quick without me in it. That's what was going on TikTok. The extra behind the
Yeah.
scenes stuff that you do there, those are the little things that I try to hone people on. I'm like, you don't have to be all over social media doing all this extraness. I did the unboxing for the new Yeti mic, you know what I'm saying? And I did it 15 seconds. Bam, that's behind the scenes. That's letting somebody know how to stay in touch with you, giving them a little intimacy into
So
knowing.
so one thing that I'll even add a step further, right? This is I always go to the core of it because a lot of people hit me up in the DMs, especially some of the new podcasters when they just coming in to the game and just into the little community that we have. There's two key things that people have to understand before they even record one episode. The first reason is, are you doing it for a hobby or are you trying to make money on it? You have to really seriously identify that because there's two different approaches that you need to take if you're going to do it and you want to make money or if you just want it to be a hobby. So you need to understand why you're doing it right out the gate. And if you're not sure, then you should do it as a hobby for a little bit with no expectation, just to try it out. But the problem is people come in and they do it they think that they're going to make money.
Right.
Because they see the Joe Rogans, they see the Gillian Wallows, they see the Call Her Daddies, they see they see the numbers that they signing off on. They seeing all these celebrities coming in, getting X number of downloads and signing with these media companies, and everybody thinks they're going to do that, and it ain't like that. So you need to understand: is this a hobby, or am I really trying to make some money on it? Because if you're really trying to make some money on it, you got to do a lot of education. You got to really invest. It costs money to make money. You have
Right.
to really invest in your microphone. You have to invest in a treated room. You might want to invest in some cameras, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but you're going to have to invest in it. That's the first thing. The second thing is where people mess up is they don't know their why. If I ask
Yes.
you what your podcast is about, you should be able to tell me in like 3 words. Oh, you have a podcast? What's it about? It's a sports podcast. It's an interview podcast. It's a relationship podcast. It's a mental health podcast. You should be able to tell me. Then if someone has a follow-up question like, oh, okay, then you can go into the explanation. But if I come to you and I ask you what your podcast is, and you got to give me this whole explanation and this whole, book about it, and then you don't know why you're doing it.
And I
So
wholeheartedly agree.
you have to know your why. If you can identify your why first and whether or not it's a hobby or if you're trying to make money, once you can do those two things, then you can move forward. That'll give you a clear vision of how you should move forward.
And I wholeheartedly can go with that because this is the thing I tell people. I've put mine in a bland category. I am a society culture podcast. Once I say that, you can't. That makes me a variety show for anything. Society culture.
Yeah.
So let me.
You could have, and that could be your answer too. Like, oh, I just have a variety of topics. I just talk about a variety of topics. Well, if you're a person that talks about a variety of topics, then you're the road to making money is going to be longer.
Oh yeah.
So you need to understand that ahead of time. it's a lot easier if you can clearly define it and say I have a sports podcast, because now you have an audience, and then, so anyway, go ahead. What was your question?
All right, so here goes my question for you. So inside all the genres of podcasting, where do you think your show fits the best? The reason, and I'm gonna give you a little spiel real fast. The reason that I did society culture when I started out is because society culture has subgenres that go below. Well, I looked at, and I'm a scientist, so I looked at how they rank stuff and how people do stuff. If you stick with society and culture, you can be a comedy podcast, relationship, Q&A like what we do. And I even do solo episodes. I even do movie reviews with the old lady sometimes. So,
Yep.
Because I didn't want to put a cap on it, because like when I listen to a relationship podcast, someone that always just talks about relationships, I kind of get dead on the situation because I'm like, y'all got skills, you could do so much more.
Yeah.
And
I say that all the time.
yeah. So where would you categorize your podcast? Where do you like to have it
So
sitting?
yeah, so I do have my podcast categorized under society and culture, only because there's not a genre for Q&A interview. There's just not one there. But in reality, what I am is an interview podcast. That's a genre in itself.
Yes.
That's there are, because if you think about it, someone like I'll just take Shannon Sharp. He is an interview podcast.
Yes.
He just interviews celebrities. Fat Joe, he's an interview podcast. The Lil Wayne podcast, it's an interview podcast. All of these guys are bringing on Gillian Wallow. They are interview podcasters. They interview rappers. I mean, they do have funny stories and stuff, and you do need to have different, as you grow your podcast, you can have different, bits or whatever. But at the end of the day, these are all interview podcasters. That's what they do. So that's, to me, that's the genre in itself, because so many Nori, Drink Champs.
Yeah.
What is that?
Woo!
That's an interview. That's an interview podcast, right? It's just that they're interviewing old school hip hop, artists. Where Gillian Wallow interview new school hip hop artists. Where Shannon Sharp interviews people in sports legends, champions, stuff like that. Mike Tyson and Mayweather, and he had Dame Dash on there. He's an interview podcaster. It's not a talk show. When he goes to not First Take, when he goes to Undisputed, that's a talk show. That's a sports podcast. That's a totally different thing. So they're not interviewing people. Yeah, every now and then they have guests that come on, but they're not interviewing. So interviewing, to me, that's a genre by itself. And that's where I really classify myself. But yeah, society and culture, because that's the only box that they give you to check.
Yeah.
On Spotify.
So we all definitely use that one. So now I pay homage to a show, a news magazine called 2020. As when I was growing up as a kid, come on 10 o'clock on Friday nights after TGI Friday was off. Barbara Walters, Diane Sawyer, John Stossel was the comedian on there. He had the little funny bits on there. But Barbara Walters and Diane Sawyer, they were the interviewers for me in my life. I had Ted Koppel. I pay a lot of homage to Tavis Smiley too, because Tavis Smiley is one of the most underrated interviewers. He went big to me. How do you go from BET to being on PBS? Like, that is, to me, the achievement in our society. And as a black man, which I like, we all kind of put him to the side. We don't pay him any mind. Tavis Smiley did more for us as journalists, because you're a journalist just like I am.
That's what we are.
To me, he did more for us as journalists than anyone else in this generation. So I'll pay homage to him. But going back to 2020, so here's some hard hitting questions. These are podcast politics, and the reason I want to ask you is because you put me on the hot seat about some stuff on your show. So here's some stuff. And what we're going to do, what we're going to stay away from, is this one thing in podcast politics. I do not care about podcast beefing. I've had 3 major feuds. I had an international feud, and I made money off of it. So I'll leave the feud out of this, because no one cares about what another podcaster does, because we do the same thing. We just use different mics. That's the only difference. And we use different editing software. Okay.
Yep.
Now, the story of Jermey, from the perspective of me, you were in the podcasting game. You were good to go. Like, you would, like, from what you and Podcastagram had going prior to the championship, which one day I'm going to do an episode about the championship. I'm going to do the history of that because that is something that changed the middle tier podcasting for all of us. It opened up gates and it's put us in these opportunities we have right now. Me and you would have linked up somewhere down the road because we were hidden, but it was certain other people that I would have never been involved with had it not been for that. So I always see that as a blessing. But we won't talk about that today because I'm going to do a podcast pop up with that and have everybody on for that. Y'all know me; I try to milk everything until it's dry. So here's our podcast politic. It's called Reciprocity in Podcasting. I have an episode coming out soon. I should have got you for this. Here it goes. Here's podcast reciprocity for you. Me, for instance, I am a giver. I do not want anyone to support my podcast. And I say this in a nice light when I say this. I know how to market my podcast. I know how to get listeners. I've got tactics for it. So when I big up another podcast, I never expect them to big me up. But if you're a colleague of mine, if me and you are side by side like we are right now, I'm gonna show love to your podcast. And if you hear something in my catalog, because everybody knows that I don't care if you share, if you hear something in my catalog and you like it and you want to share it, fine and dandy. Not gonna hurt me if you do or if you don't. But what I like in podcasting is getting the same respect when it comes to when I put out something on those podcast talks or something of quality. Someone just even stopping in for 2 seconds or even viewing it, even if I never see that you viewed it. That's the kind of reciprocity I want. But some people want this kind of reciprocity. They want follow for follow, sub for sub. And the one that I hate, and I do this for everybody. And some people like I did this for you today because I know that you don't catch stories all the time. So I tagged you in So Problematic because on my 6-hour ride from wherever to wherever, I don't want to get pop smoked out here, so I don't want nobody knowing where I'm at. But anyway, so I got to listen to your show. I got to listen to Dolomites. Got to listen to a few other ones that I hadn't been able to listen to just because I drive. You know what 6-hour drive time is. So if you got enough time, you can listen to anything you want. So I had time to listen, and once I got finished, you notice you seen something pop up about your show. And I did that because I know that you guys are busy and stuff like that. Y'all work like I work. Well, me and you personally work the same kind of level. So our understanding is I don't have time to look at everybody's story to see if you posted about West Virginia Uncomplex or Life Unplugged. But if you tag me, much power to you. Certain people I'll tag, certain people I won't. So I tagged y'all because I got a chance to listen to it. I was like, man, I'm feeling this. And the rest of this season this year, I'll just give you your flowers on it. This season this year is your best season. You had quality guests in the other ones, but this season you honed your craft this year. Something about the water you drinking.
You. I appreciate that.
Yeah, something about. But listen, something about the water you drinking now. You stop drinking alkaline water. You drinking natural water, or you might be drinking tap. I don't know. You're doing something different. You might be in the gym, or you golf swing might have changed something.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, always. So, my thought is, what is your thoughts on reciprocity in podcasting? Do you feel that you have to do a sub for sub, or do you have to do a share for share? Because I tell people like this: if you acknowledge my podcast in speaking, if you and some other podcaster say, "Man, JR got out here and did a good live talking about this or that," and he put me in a direction that I might want to go get an Apple MacBook or MacBook Pro, some crazy headphones. I decided to carry my content over to Apple because it's an easier way to provide great sound because you got GarageBand, Logic, and all that stuff. That's the type of respect I like. I don't care if someone gives me, because we're podcasters. I don't need another podcaster to download my episode, listen to it, and like it. No.
Yeah. So for me, I just live by what you see is what you get. If I listen to your podcast, it's because I liked it. If I might have listened to it, and if I didn't like it, most times I don't repost it. If the sound quality is bad, if the content is bad, I don't repost it. I mean, I ain't gonna put that out there. You may not even know that I listen. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I try to at least give it 5 minutes. But I can tell right from the very beginning, if you don't have no format, I could tell. Like you could just tell right out the gate, and I'm out. But if I listen to your whole podcast and I like something that you do, I'll post you. I'll put you on my story. I don't expect for people to do that back. I don't even care for people to do it back. I have had people hit me up and say, "Oh, can you make sure you reshare that for me?" And I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll reshare it. If somebody asks me, I'll definitely reshare it. But I personally don't. For me, what I have pretty much stayed true to this. When I first came into this podcast community, there was a handful of people, and when I say handful, I mean like less than a handful of people that were very kind and sharing. I'm talking about when I had like no followers. When I was like, basically hoping somebody would listen, to an episode. There was like, a few people, 2-3 people. Yash from, I've said this a million times, Yash from Wine Time Podcast. I've said it on many other platforms. She was the first person that I ever interacted with. And she was the first person to give me like positive, like, hey, you can do it. She gave me tips and tricks and different things. And it was really just from tuning into one of her Thursday night lives. And there was Cindy Rosa from Cougars and Clitties. She was another one early on that I jumped on one of her lives and asked her some questions, and she hit me with some good information. So like I said, it was like a few people. And then of course, Pat from Podcasting, me and Pat connected really early on, and we developed a relationship and really started working together, and our personalities vibed, and we were able to I had him on my support series podcast. And so from the very beginning, I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be that person that a new podcaster coming in is going to say, oh, I can reach out to that guy, or you say, you meet a new podcaster, I might not even know that they knew. And you say, who you want to talk to? You want to go talk to Jermey from Life Unplugged. He's somebody that you can hit up and he will get back to you and he will answer the question and he will listen to your podcast or whatever. So I've tried to be that person, and many people have over this year and a half that I've been doing it. Many people have hit me up. Hey, what you think about this? Hey, can you listen to my podcast? Hey, can you do this? Hey, what kind of mic do you use? Hey, what do you think about Rodecaster? Should I buy a Rodecaster? Should I do this or should I do that? So I always wanted to just be that source. And I think that that's why I have respect in the podcast community, because I don't get on beefs, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
I don't get involved in any of that stuff because, first of all, I'm 46 years old this year. So, a lot of the people, there's a lot of people my age, but there's a lot of younger people that are podcasting, or a lot of people that are younger than me, that are podcasting. So I have kind of like that OG status. So I'm not really in, I'm not in anybody's clique. I'm just like the old head on the corner,
Yeah.
Watching everybody, go around, so because of that, I never really had to worry about being a part of any kind of beef or anything like that. I just try to be supportive of anybody. If anybody have a question, male, female, white, black, it doesn't matter. If you have a question, if I can help you, and people have been that for me. Adrian, and obviously in the beginning it was, Yash was one of the main ones, one of the first ones, but over time, Adrian from Midlife Craven, she's somebody that, people, there's a lot that people don't know about her. Like, smart. She had her own social media company before all of this. So she has a lot of knowledge, super intelligent. She has a lot of knowledge. She's somebody that I hit up. She hits me up. We communicate. We talk. We have each other's personal number. If there's a question I have, I know I can hit her up. If she has a question, she can hit me up, and we bounce stuff off of each other. But she's somebody that's also like that. Of course, Pat, he's somebody, but not everybody's like that, and that's okay. That's how I want to be. So I've stayed true to that throughout my time as a podcaster, and as new podcasters come in, hopefully people know me to be that person, and that they just continue to refer people to me. And I don't look for a repost. I don't look for money. I don't look for anything. It's just kind of, when I came in, I didn't know who to talk to or who was cool or, whatever. And so I want people to come in and be comfortable. And that's where the support series podcast came in. When I was getting with, Y'all Ain't Easy podcast, they had only had like one episode out. When I got with the Carbon Ops podcast, they only had like 2 or 3 episodes out. Kendra didn't even have a podcast out
Right.
when she was on the support series podcast. The Smoking Word podcast, they only had about 3 or 4 episodes out when they came on. And then, I had a handful of other people. G George from the G Slade Music Showcase, he had like over 100 episodes out, but he wasn't really a part of the community. Nobody really knew who he was or what he was doing. So I introduced a bunch of artists to him, and got my brother's an independent music artist, got my brother on his show. And they ended up doing like a 2.5-hour episode. He was saying it was one of his best episodes. They were just talking. He had just like an open format, and they listened to music and just talked about life and just growing up. And his story is amazing. Like this guy, his father was murdered and they had to overcome, like, it was crazy. So that's part of, for me, I just always wanted to be that support person for people coming in, to the podcast. So that's how I navigate through all of that.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you doing that, because it's vast amounts of knowledge that different people can give to people, and I like that. And that's the one thing I like about Pat, because Pat will bounce people between you, me, and whoever else that has spectrum, as I call it. And in our different spectrums, we got different ways to help people, and that's the one thing I like about the community. When the community wants to work together, because the problem is sometimes people forget the unity in community, and that's what I like about you, because you don't get caught up in all that stuff. And I'm guilty of it, because in certain choice situations, I give help when help is not asked for sometimes, and I've had to learn not to give help at all anymore.
Yeah.
So that was a key thing I learned. So I don't give help at all anymore. People come to me, and when they ask, we'll go through the information references. So a client that's coming to me, that's a client coming to me. But anybody, like, how we chop it up, and other people in the industry, we chop it up. One guy in particular I want to talk about real quick. I mean, most people would think I'm about to talk to you about Dolomite, but that's not who I want to talk to you about. What are your thoughts on King Jerm from Frocast?
Yeah, underrated, not celebrated enough. Amazing podcast. The production is amazing. The content is amazing. It's creative. It's funny. It's authentic. I mean, I didn't really know King Jerm and Queen Jerm, and I really just saw the post that they were. I hadn't really listened. Let me put it like, I hadn't really listened to the podcast. I might have tuned in quick for a clip here or there, but didn't really dig really into it until he was going to be on my show. And when he was going to be on my show, of course, I'm doing my normal research, and I start listening to these episodes, and I'm like, man, this guy is, he's amazing. Like, I mean, like, just the comfort, just being comfortable on the microphone. Like I said, the production, the sound quality, the back and forth between him and Queen Jerm, it's amazing, man. Like, seriously, like, he's just one of these guys that's like, you think that you would hear him, that more people would be trying to get him on their show. And as a matter of fact, shameless plug, that episode that I did with Frocast, a re-airing of that episode is happening tomorrow, live 5 o'clock on Latte Java Drips Radio. So if anybody hasn't heard that episode, obviously you can go listen to it on all stream platforms. But if you want to hear it live just to support the radio show, the internet radio, go ahead over to lattejavadrips.com, and that'll be airing tomorrow at 5 p.m. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Also,
so he's
now you didn't put me in a situation, with your permission, after we're done, I might have to turn this into a quick YouTube thing, and then release the podcast later. I was going to probably push for it like next week, because when you get content like this, this is something that has been asked of me. People wanted me to get you on the show, You know,
Okay.
and I'll tell you a funny story. Someone asked me if me and you had beef or something, and I told him, I said no. I said you have to understand one thing with me, and everybody knows this. I am the Kanye West of podcasting. So when I get out here and I start doing shows, it's very sporadic. I don't even like to schedule it. I like to just if you
Yeah.
like me and you learned each other's schedules, we know that we travel and we got certain time we can do shows. And
Yeah.
we make it work. Like I did your show one time I was traveling, you did my show now
Yep.
when you're traveling. And
Yep.
I tell people when it comes to our normal interviews and stuff like that, yeah, we structure that, but this stuff right here has to be fun. This has to
Yeah.
be, yeah, it has to be exciting. So let's go to a hard hitting question now. All right, you out here,
Okay.
you've been podcasting for a while, you've had your ups and downs, rounds and rounds. Um, what has been, and this is a question I ask everybody, this is a podcast collide question. That's another series that I do with up and coming podcasters, but I need a true answer from you on this one. What has been your biggest disappointment in podcasting? And before you answer, hold on. Let me catch my breath. My biggest disappointment in podcasting is this, and this gives you filler so that you can think about your answer because I want the best detailed answer you can give me. Because this is going to be one of the gems in the episode because you got to understand you're a teacher inside podcasting. Even if you don't believe it, when people hear this podcast, they're going to be like, Jeremy and JR got on here. These motherfuckers are wordsmiths. They out here, they write parables and laws that we're going to use in 20 years. So, so here's my thing. My biggest disappointment in podcasting is not about the support anymore. I don't care about the support. We're going to all support each other however we do. You're going to make it in podcasting if you want to make it. So I don't have any grief with that. My disappointment in podcasting now, and this is really a fickle situation, is people's actual audio work on their episodes. I have older episodes where I use cheaper mics and I put those episodes out and them shit sound like garbage. But I'm putting it out because it's content that I've sat on. I need to get rid of it. But I say this, and I am a thrifty podcaster. I go inside Five Below. I show people where you can get mics. As long as you're not hooking nothing into your 33.5 millimeter jack, you can have a good microphone. But don't plug anything where headphones go and think that's going to be a good microphone. That's one thing I tell people. And I will tell somebody you can go to Five Below, get a USB mic with a filter and everything on it. You got two ways to fix this. And this is been my pet peeve, and this is why I stepped away from doing a lot of people's shows. If you don't have a microphone and you're recording like right now, the only thing you have to do is turn the volume down on your microphone. Because what Zoom does is Zoom's going to pick a heavy pitch. Because your microphone, we don't know where it is on our computer for real. You know, I'm being honest. Like I don't know, even though I'm all technical and I can see the speaker on the right side where sound comes out, I don't really know where the mic's at. Do you know where the mic's at? Nah. So
Not at all.
Right. So I tell people this. Just if you don't have a mic and you're recording with a phone, that phone has to be at an angle. And I show them the angle. I'm like, you got to turn the phone. This is your iPhone or whatever you're using. The phone's got to be turned like this. Your microphone's hitting right here. That's one thing that you can visually tell your microphone. So if your microphone's to the side right there, that's unorthodox recording. If you're using your Yeti mic is supposed to be straight up and it sounds better because now you hear me and the quality sounds even better, doesn't it?
Yeah, the closer you get to it, yep.
It's not supposed to be like this. But if you set it up like this is the best quality you have.
Yeah.
And I'm going in and it's like I'm rapping right now. I can just do what I want to do and this thing is rolling. But if I keep it out this far, I can still hear it. I can change the pattern on it. But the last thing that you can do if your microphone does not do the job, you have a DAW. That is GarageBand, or if you like me on the bootleg tip, I ain't paying $300 for Logic, but I've got the bootleg copy. I'm running my episode through something if I don't have all the necessary hookups. So my disappointment in podcasting is that people will not take that episode and run it through Audacity or something to fix the sound if the mic is not the best mic to be used.
Yeah.
So that's just my disappointment. Like you can fix that sound. It's either you got the mic or you fix it with a DAW.
So there's a well, I always like to start with what I think we're doing good, where podcast is doing good.
Okay.
And I've been pretty consistent in saying that I believe that what podcasting did, especially in the post or the COVID pandemic era, I call it, okay, is it has given people a voice. So there are some people who need it. Many times you hear people say that podcasting was therapeutic for them because they were able to speak about their whatever was going on inside. So that was the first thing. They had a voice. Maybe they didn't feel like they had a voice in their family or in their household, but podcasting gave them a voice. It also provided a voice to people who had a product to sell, who had a service to sell. It gave them an opportunity now to like get basically free advertisement, because there are some podcasters that do have big followings. So if someone's selling a product that's, that people are interested in, and you get on one of these platforms that has a decent following, like I always say, if you get one extra follower, you get one extra purchase, you get one extra anything, then the podcast did its job. So that's where I think that, we're doing good. And I kind of stick to that. I think that even to now as we enter post-COVID era, I believe that podcasting still provides that voice for people. And now people are not afraid to speak up and tell their truth in many instances. So I think that that's where we're doing good. Number one, where I think that we could use some improvement is exactly what you said. The production part of our podcast. Not just on the microphone. The microphone is the start. The sound quality on some podcasts is just not good. And I know for me personally, if I listen to your podcast and your sound quality is bad, I automatically tune out, right? I like to hear an intro. I like to hear a little bit of an intro music or intro something that draws me into your podcast. I'm prepared, and I like podcasts that have a format.
Yes.
I personally don't like podcasts that are random. Every time you turn it on, you get a different startup, or they go on rambling on, for long periods of time. And so your production, so the microphone, I know we're limited with Zoom, but there are other ways to record video. You could use, it's a pay site, but you could use Zencastr. And let me tell you, if you haven't used Zencastr, the quality on Zencastr is like the person is sitting right there. I mean, it is phenomenal. So if, people really want to improve their quality, they can use sites like Zencastr, and that right there would boost your quality of your production. But I just think that we have to add a little bit of time and energy to our production. And there are a lot of podcasters out there that do a very, very good job with their production, having different skits, having different bits that they do, having certain little, I like this one thing that Dewan does, explain your tweet. I think that's super creative. Adrian from Midlife Craving does the 5-minute orgasm, where for the first 5 minutes of her show, she just talks about what's going on in her life. It's a clever way to draw people in, right? She's not really talking about sex in that 5 minutes. As a matter of fact, that's probably the part of her podcast that's not about sex. Yet so you see how clever and creative that is to draw people in. So there are a lot of people that are very creative in that way, and I like when it comes to just overall production and format, I like to see podcasters improve in that way. And if you want to get noticed and if you want to get followers, that's improving your production is key, but your content is important. You have to have content that's going to draw people in. And listen, your podcast is not for everybody.
Right.
Not everybody wants to hear interview podcasts, and those people don't listen to that. So some people, that's boring. Unless I was able to get Mayweather or Dame Dash or somebody onto my podcast, more than likely, unless people just enjoy hearing interview podcast, or once people get to know the quality of your of your brand, of your podcast, once people go, oh, Jermey, I like his voice. I like the way he interacts with people. I like the way he talks to people. I like the way he formulates his questions. I like how he draws people out. That's how you start to build up a fan base, essentially. So we have to put some thought into our production, the overall production, from sound quality to video, if we're going to do video, to an intro, an outro, an outline of how the flow of our show is going to go. Give some consideration to how long your podcast is. You know, now some it works for people some people to have the hour and a half long podcast, and that's fine. But no matter what, we have to, have these production meetings. When and I always use these sports shows, but when Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, they don't just show up at 9:30 and go on the air and start talking about the football games from the weekend and the basketball games. No, they get there like 6 a.m. They got hair and makeup. They got production green room meetings or production meetings, stats meetings. They got a meeting they do together. They got meetings they do separate with their individual people. That show is produced, like it's laid out. It's not random. They have the papers in front of them. They have someone in their ear telling them to keep them on track. It's feeding them facts and things of that nature. So the production is very important. And I think that that's an area that we just have to do a little bit better in. And it's an area that and it's not to put myself above or to say that I'm perfect at it. No, I have to always constantly give consideration to my format and to my production, and to make sure that I stay on brand with what my vision is for my podcast.
Okay. And I like that, because people give me flack because my shows are scripted. I do this unfiltered series so that we can talk.
I script my shows too. People call me and they're like, I don't want the script. I'm like, okay, I don't have to. I still do it though. Like, I just don't email it to them.
Yeah, and my thing is, like, I like to have an outline of the questions, and I don't ask them in that order, and I don't use all of them. But sometimes in the conversation, you get dead air with certain guests, because I've gotten hype on guests and they sound good for the first 15 minutes.
Yep.
Then I got to pick up their slack, and they call me the filler king. I can make pies all day.
Let me add one more thing. This is something that I greatly underestimated early on: editing your podcast. And I'm not talking about necessarily editing it for sound quality, because if you use a good mic and you have a halfway decent system, the sound is going to be fine. You're not going to have to change the levels at all. It's about editing your podcast for unnecessary commentary, editing your podcast for sneezing, coughing, getting up, going to the bathroom, drinking a water bottle, a sound, a siren in the background, cursing. Even if you want to edit out cursing, don't underestimate editing. So many people want to skip that step. They want to record it, boom, drop it on Anchor, drop it on Podbean, drop it on all these things, and then just be done with it, drop it on YouTube. Don't underestimate the power of editing your podcast unless you're doing a live show. Like, some people are doing a live stream and doing a live show, and then that's totally different. But if you're going to do a live show, all the more so your production has to be tight.
Yes, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, because on that note, my format was actually supposed to start today with Twitch, and I had to just not say anything. I just had to put it on hold, because we did a live test, because I had to get behind the scenes and either decide if I was going to StreamYard. And everybody knows that I'm an actual video gamer, so I got the OBS studio and I'm running it. Well, we did a test live, and I realized that even though I've got everything set up on my end, without using StreamYard, I'm not getting the same mic quality from someone else. Zoom, if people use Zoom, and I say this about Zoom right now, if you go inside this Zoom and you download the settings to kill out the back noise and different things like that, you have to go in there and actually literally do it. And that's the thing with anything with this, like, and that's why people always like my technical advice, because I go into the options. If you download the certain options, you can fix Zoom. Zoom as a native app is not good. This one that we're on right now,
No.
I tweaked it.
Okay. And
And
listen, I've gotten some really good sound quality out of Zoom under certain circumstances. For instance, when a person is using a good microphone.
yes,
When a person's using a good microphone on their end, the sound quality is not bad. It's not bad. Where you get into a problem is where people do Zoom and use the laptop mic and you don't have a quality laptop. If you're using a MacBook, you're going to be okay. You know, or they're in a area of the room is too open. They're on their cell phone. There's too much background noise, you know, or your internet connection isn't good. But if you have a solid internet connection, a halfway decent mic, and you use headphones, you can use Zoom to do all your podcast. But I do recommend Zencaster.
yeah, and I will say the Zencaster and Riverside, people use that. And I'm going to eventually go over to SteamYard for a few episodes when I do the live episodes, because I got one coming up about pod fading, because we're losing a lot of podcasts to that, but that's another topic for another day. All right, so Jeremy, real quick, so that we can wrap this up, because appreciate you definitely coming on. The last thing, if you had a billboard and it was out there, where's my favorite part of Pennsylvania? Only part of Pennsylvania I like is Lehigh area, because I was an amateur wrestler. So Lehigh area, you got a billboard up there. What does it say about you, your podcast, in the future? Let me repeat that one more time.
Well, it's very. You don't have to repeat it, because it's very interesting that you asked that question, because really, to be quite honest, and I'm just announcing this on your show, I haven't really told anybody. Actually, I made like a kind of a cryptic tweet about it today. My podcast is going to start to fade. You talk about podcast fade. Because we are in this post-COVID era now, life has gotten back to normal somewhat. I'm back to heavy travel, a lot more responsibility at work. I don't have while I have time to record, I don't have the time to edit and give you a quality product in a timely manner. So I've been finding that I've just been having a little bit more difficult. I have, the grandkids running around the weekend. They're at the house. I'm working a lot of hours, sometimes 10 to 12 hours a day. I'm traveling every month. Sometimes it just becomes a little bit difficult to stay up on top of the editing or to just give you a quality product. I really like to research my guests. I like to be able to have quality questions. I like to be able to pull them out and draw them out. And if I can't give that, then I'm not going to put out episodes. So I'm not saying that the Life Unplugged podcast is going away, but you will see less episodes being put out, because I will put it out when I have time to put them out, when I have time to dedicate to the production, when I have time to dedicate to the preparation, the research that goes into it. So you've already started to see it a little bit. I don't put out episodes every week anymore. I've been putting out episodes like once every 3 weeks. I am on the radio show, which allows me to give older episodes. So it's episodes that they've already been out, and I have plenty. I have about 60 episodes that I can go back. So with that, so those are just reruns that you're hearing on the radio show. But if you notice, I haven't been putting out episodes every week. It's gone to every other week. And that's why I said I still have to edit your episode, and once your episode is edited, then I'll put it out. But it's probably not going to be for another 2 to 3 weeks. So actually, tonight I'm probably going to mess around editing it.
All right.
Because I just wanted to get that out. So anyway, so with that being said, if there's a billboard, it's going to always say you're the premier interview podcast.
Okay, and I like that.
That's what I always have.
Now, one thing I do,
That's what I always go by.
one thing we do on the show, I do a testimony about the person who you are, because you don't know who you are unless I tell you. So here we go, Jeremy. You're an advocate. An advocate is a hard thing to do in this business. An advocate has to stretch themselves thin sometimes. You have to cover things that other people aren't going to cover. You have to be innovative. Being innovative is a hard step because everybody thinks that everything is copy and paste. I don't care how many interviews Larry King, Travis Smiley have done. Every time you embrace an interview with someone, it is a different experience. It's a different way of speaking. It's a whole different jargon. And you do it very well. You, James Lampkin, me, and King Jerm. I'm gonna give him his respect there too. That's the Rushmore of podcasting. I've said it. Anybody else that wants to dispute it, say what you want, but the proof is in the pudding. So take that with you, put it in the bank, put it in safe deposit box, and then put it back in another safe past that. Now, your heart in this business. I understand because I'm going through the same thing you're going through now. Only thing is I was Tupac in this business when it came to recording episodes. I recorded so many that I just couldn't put them out. I'm not gonna put out 2 episodes or 3 episodes a week. I think that's ridiculous. Unless it's some fire. If it's some fire, I'll throw something the other way, bam. Now, with you, like the heart you have, the way that you help people, and you will never hear the testaments that I hear about you, but I've never had a person speak bad about you. You only got one beef in the business, and we talked about that, and that's just a joke. You got a show you got to go. It's a show you got to go do. You got a show to go do.
Yes.
So you're going to have to do like I do. You're going to have to do it on a Tuesday like I did today because we can't make that Friday show. We both know we can't. Friday.
No.
So on that one, I want to say you're more than a colleague. You're a friend of me in this business. I appreciate everything you do for people. You do for me. And you don't know what you do for me, but I'll tell you what this. You make me work a little bit harder at what I do. I don't try to supersede or pass anybody. I just try to stay in the same relevancy as you, as James. Anybody else, I don't care because whatever they're doing, it don't make sense. It doesn't make dollars. It don't do anything for my ego or anything. So when I hear you come out with an episode, I'm listening to it. I'm saying, is this man still on point like Steve Nash? And he's still on point like Steve Nash. We're not going to talk about anything about in Philadelphia because the only thing that came out of Philadelphia that's been good in the last few years has been the Phillies. So no offense, man. I'm just.
Hey, man, we won the Super Bowl. We did win the Super Bowl in 18.
Right, but the Phillies, when we talk about consistency in you and the Phillies, that's just there. 76ers, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm a Virginia guy originally, so when Iverson was there, we were there. When Vic was there out in the area, we were there. So Philadelphia and Virginia got a connection. Now, and that is, I said Virginia people. I live in West Virginia, but I'm from Virginia. Another key thing that you do in this business, you influence. You shake it up when you do lives, when you come out for them, because you don't come out too much anymore. When you were coming out for them, people were shaking it up. And I followed suit like you. I stopped being that interactive. I stopped being that accessible because it's not necessary. I'm already who I am. And let's just put this here on wax today. You are a legend just like I'm a legend. We didn't make ourselves that, and I'm not bragging about it, but people have just decided that me and you were legends. Whatever we do, I'm gonna come talk to them.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah, you heard that little sound. like somebody's gonna come talk to Jeremy, they're gonna come talk to JR, but we're gonna end up talking to both of them at some point. Not together, but apart to figure out what we're doing. And I don't know why we got that kind of respect. I love it. And I treat it the same way you do.
Right.
Anybody that needs help, I'm gonna give them the help they need. And that's the testimony on you. You are a good spirit in podcasting. Definitely need you to just keep being that spirit that you are. If you slow down in podcasting, the thing that I need you to do, and I need you to promise the world today, is that you will still continuously produce episodes. It doesn't matter when they come out. They can be a month apart, 2 months apart. You've got the same kind of respect that Dolomite has. Dolomite could disappear from podcasting and come back with some episodes, and people are going to keep listening. Me personally, I got to keep it pumping like crack. If I don't have them out pumping like crack, people are going to fall off. Not that I'm not good, not that my format's not, but people know that I'm high octane gas. I'm that 93. You're that 89. And that 89 holds truer than the 93. The 93 works all the time. When you got 89 in there, you're rolling. You know what I mean? And that's your respect in this business. And I want you to keep that, hold on to that put it in a capsule, and then sell it one day to people, because your advice and your knowledge in here, you could get out here and you could pass along what you know and develop your own courses. Because we've had this discussion a million times. I talk about certain gurus, and we didn't jump into that because I didn't want to tear anybody apart. But you are a guru in this. You don't know it, and that's the only beef I have with you, is that you don't know that you have a true purpose in this. You are on equal plane with me when it comes to advice and different things like that, even with the technology. Because one thing that is truth be told about you, one day you decided to go to the Apple store and you bought the whole damn store.
Yes. Yeah, Apple. Listen, if y'all not on y'all app, I mean, you can produce a quality show without Apple, but Apple is a different level. It's just a different quality, and that's all I'll say about that.
Right, and I don't want to jar anybody or make anybody upset with those comments, but I just say this: it's an easier platform to do what you can do. Windows is fine.
Yeah.
Just don't use a Chromebook. If you got a Chromebook, like, don't podcast. You can get a
Don't
Windows.
podcast on no Chromebook.
You can get
You
a
can't
Windows.
even go on Zoom. You could barely go on Zoom on a Chromebook.
Right. So on that notion, your testimony is this: you're tried and true, and you're great in this business. I don't want you to ever let anything chop you down and make you feel like that you can't take breaks and do what you need to do. Because hell, I take breaks just because I got so much content. Sometimes I go months and not do nothing. I don't even get on Instagram. The shit's automated. Right. If I answer a message, it's by choice.
Yep.
And people need your toolage. People need to know the tutorials that you got inside of you that you ain't put out yet. People need to know how to use that Zoom from our aspect. One thing that I don't shed a light on, and I don't make anything black or white, but I'm saying this as actual experience. The reason why I show the different connections and use the mics and stuff like that is because people won't go buy stuff if they don't actually see people that they appreciate using it. And people appreciate you. So when you show them the Zoom, if you got the extra camera, just can show this, and that, and just give them, if you got the Quiet Storm voice, the Walt Baby Love voice. Remember Walt Baby Love?
Yeah.
So you
that's what they all say.
Right. So you got that smooth voice. So you can just say that shit randomly. You could be like, after you hook the mic up, you just pause, and you ain't got to say nothing else, and just let the mic hook up and shit. And you can make a fake sound. You can go, and it wouldn't matter. People just gonna follow it. So stay true to yourself and do what you do, but get them tutorials out there. And as a last note on this show, we do something called a shameless plug. You did one earlier. I need the biggest shameless plug you can do about everything you got going on. And like I tell everybody, we're into a different season in podcasting. Even though you said that you're going to relax a little bit on it, people can still interact with you. That's one thing that won't change regardless.
I'll still be available. Oh yeah. So go into that with segue and real nicely into that is, of course, follow me on Instagram at Life Unplugged _podcast, and on Twitter. That's where I'm the most active. That's where you can talk to me. That's where you can reply to my crazy comments at Life Unplugged _1 on Twitter. Okay. So you can interact with me on both of those sites. Right now, I have an episode out with So Problematic. It's available on all streaming platforms. And we touched on a lot of different topics. We talked about being a woman in a sex-driven world. We talked about the state of podcast community. We talked about cliques in the podcast community. We talked about soulmates, and we talked about getting married again, and all these different topics. And they had some strong opinions. They had a show that's out with So Problematic. And of course, every Wednesday at 5, I'm live on Latte Java Drips Radio. Latte Java Drips Radio. Some rerun episodes, but if you haven't heard some of the episodes, you can probably see them start to ramp up again.
All right. Now, on that note, like always, any of the guests that are on my show provide me with the show notes for my show. So, audience, you will be able to get all the information from Jermey about where you can get his links and everything. I will make sure that they get SEO proven, pushed across Tumblr, through the mountains of all 13 social media platforms that I use on this podcast, and the backup team for West Virginia Commonplace, Trevor, Irish Steve, and whoever else will be pushing this one through the roof. And after this episode, we're going to jump on live real quick because we got a special announcement to make. So once again, guys, thank you for tuning in to West Virginia Commonplace. This has been an unfiltered episode. Unfiltered episodes are provided by me and the great people at Sometimes Cinema. We are out here trying to get these unfiltered episodes, get the nitty gritty out here, and make episodes fun. My Thursday shows are real structured sometimes, and I don't like that sometimes, but that's what I'm known for. So, guys, once again, this is JR from West Virginia Commonplace with Jeremy from Life Unplugged. We're out of here. All right. Oh, hold on. I need to stop the recording.